Hi, parents. Welcome to the Parent Guide, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction. I'm Matt Bulkley, psychotherapist, and I'm here to walk alongside you as you navigate one of the toughest challenges that a parent can face, supporting a teen who may be struggling with pornography addiction. And if you've ever asked yourself, is my teen's porn use just a phase? Is it a bad habit? Or is it something more serious? Then you're not alone. And today we're diving into a helpful diagnostic and therapy tool called the Youth Pornography Addiction Screening Tool, or the YPAST, to help you to understand your teen's habits and to take meaningful steps toward their healing. This episode is all about you equipping you with knowledge, empathy, and practical strategies to guide your teen with confidence. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll explore what the YPAST is, how to use it, how to approach your teen about it, what to do with results, and to identify other forms of assessment that you can use to determine your teen's commitment or lack thereof to working on a recovery from pornography addiction. Plus, we'll address some common challenges and share a parent question about what to do if your teen is resistant to engage. So settle in and let's get started on this journey together. Let's start by grounding ourselves in what it is that we're dealing with. So pornography addiction isn't just about how often your teen views explicit content. It's about how that behavior impacts their life. When porn use becomes compulsive and emerges as an addiction, it can disrupt their emotional growth, damage their capacity for rational thinking, impede their ability to control impulses, strain relationships with family and friends, interfere with schoolwork or hobbies, and erode their self-esteem. And in today's world where smartphones and high-speed internet make explicit content just a tap away, it's easier than ever for teens to stumble into pornography, sometimes out of curiosity, sometimes by accident. And what starts as a fleeting moment can spiral into a habit that feels out of control, leaving teens grappling with shame, isolation, or a sense that they can't stop. And as a parent, when you realize that this is occurring, this can feel shocking and overwhelming, and you might wonder, how did this happen? Is this my fault? Where do I even begin? And let me assure you, these are normal questions, and to let you know you're not alone and there are ways to help. And that's where the Youth Pornography Addiction Screening Tool, or the YPAST, comes in. So we developed the YPAST. It's been about 15 years ago, 2010, when we were designing interventions for teen pornography addiction at Therapy Associates in St. George, Utah. And we were putting the groundwork in place for the Star Guides program, our outdoor behavioral health wilderness therapy program. And at that point, we worked with a clinician, Doug Foote. Shout out to Doug, wherever he's at now, who helped contribute to the creation of the YPAST as well during that time. And so for 15 years, we used the YPAST in our treatment settings, both outpatient and in Star Guides. And this year in 2025, it's been updated to reflect the realities of today's digital landscape. And while it hasn't undergone a formal statistical validation, and just a side note on that, if there are any researchers or graduate students listening who are looking for a great project, who want to collaborate on validating this tool, love to hear from you. This tool has been used by literally thousands of teens and their families over the past 15 years to get a baseline understanding of how pervasive their porn use is. And it's been used in parent-led interventions. We've used it in outpatient treatment settings and then in residential settings like Star Guides. Just to note, the YPAST, it isn't a diagnosis, or it's not intended to be a standalone finding, but it is a teen-friendly starting point to help you and your teen assess whether their pornography habits are simply a passing curiosity or something that is moving in a more pervasive manner that need more structured support like outpatient therapy, or if it's intensive problem, a program like Star Guides. So you can find the YPAST on our website, therapyassociates.net. If you scroll to the Youth Services tab, and then onto the pornography addiction page. So there's 2 forms there that you can use to take the YPAST. So one is a downloadable PDF version that you click on and download, and then you can print it out and do it on paper. Or we have an online version that's just built right into the website. It's embedded there that automatically will tabulate the results and provide you a confidential score. And it's also included in our Breaking Free workbook, both in the beginning of the workbook as a pre-treatment assessment, and then at the conclusion of the book as a post-treatment assessment tool. Before we dive into the details of the YPAST, let's just take a moment and acknowledge how hard this actually is. Discovering that your teen might be struggling with pornography can bring up feelings of fear, guilt, or even anger, and that's okay. You are here because you care, and that's the first step towards making a difference. So what exactly is the YPAST, and why should you and your teen care? Well, the YPAST is a 25-question self-assessment that helps teens reflect on how pornography is affecting their lives. And remember, it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about labeling them as bad or casting judgment. It's about opening a door to honest reflection and meaningful conversations. Here's how it works. Your teen answers 25 questions about their behavior over the past few months. And the questions are straightforward, like, do you feel ashamed or guilty after viewing pornography? Or have you tried to hide your use from others? And with each of these 25 questions, they rate each question on a scale from 0 to 4, where 0 means never and 4 means always. And at the end, their answers generate a score that falls into one of 4 different categories. So if the score between 0 to 25, this means a healthy curiosity. This suggests that their exposure is minimal and likely a normal part of exploring their world. And this becomes a chance to reinforce healthy boundaries and set some parameters on technology use as a parent as you find a teen who scores in that range. So next level up would be from 26 to 49, and the conclusion there would be a growing concern. This indicates that the habit is starting to take hold and that the teen could benefit from early intervention to prevent escalation. This is where you could intervene with the parent-led intervention, use our recovery toolbox, and start some preventative measures in the home with a parent-led intervention. So the next level up, scores from 50 to 69. This would signify emerging challenges. The scores in this range would suggest that the pornography is significantly impacting their life and that professional support like outpatient therapy may be needed. And then finally, the top of the score would be between 70 to 100, which would indicate a significant struggle. And this would signal that there's a more entrenched issue that likely requires intensive intervention, such as a structured program like Star Guides. So what makes the YPAST so valuable is that it gives you and your teen a very concrete way to measure the problem without judgment. It's like taking the temperature of their habits. Let me give you an example. I worked with the family, and for confidentiality purposes, I always change names, but we'll call my client Jake. And in working with the parents, their 16-year-old son Jake, spending hours online, usually late at night. His grades were slipping. Parents suspected that pornography was involved, but they didn't know how serious it was. So when Jake took the YPAST, his score landed in the emerging challenges range. And that gave his parents a clear starting point to talk with him, introduce the idea of seeking some outpatient therapy without making him feel attacked. It wasn't about catching him using pornography. It was about understanding him. Again, the YPAST is available on the website, therapyassociates.net, under youth services and on the pornography addiction page. And then I encourage you to check it out. Go there and decide if PDF version or the embedded online version is going to be the best way to use it. Remember, it's quick, it's confidential, and it really can be a game changer for starting those tough conversations with your teen. But here's the catch. For many parents, getting your teen to take the assessment can be a challenge. And so I want to talk about how to make that happen. So let's be real. Asking your teen to take a questionnaire about their pornography use, well, it can feel like walking into a minefield. They might shut down, they might get defensive, or even feel scared about being judged, and that's completely normal. Teens are navigating a lot: hormones, peer pressure, social media, a digital world that's constantly bombarding them. So how do you get them to engage with the YPASS without it turning into a battle? Well, here's the thing. If you use the recovery toolbox, the YPAST is in the Breaking Free workbooks as a pre-treatment assessment. And then again, at the back of the book, it's post-treatment assessment. And if they see it as part of the treatment process, there's typically no resistance to taking it. If your teen comes into outpatient therapy, we'll use it at the beginning of treatment. And it's a great way to get a measure of where they're at. And the thing is, most teens are receptive to it. But of course, when teens are in that spot, they've already submitted to the idea of participation in treatment. So I think it tends to be more challenging for parents if you are not to the point of professional intervention and you want to start maybe the parent-led intervention before seeking professional help and you want to use the YPASS, then that's where it can be challenging. So let's break that down. Let's take a look at some common challenges and how to overcome them working with your teen. So the first challenge would probably be their reluctance to taking the exam. And this would just be that some teens worry that admitting their struggles would lead to punishment or to shame. And to ease them into it, create a safe, judgment-free space. Let them know the YPASS is private, and especially if they use the online version where the score is calculated instantly and it's not stored or recorded, and nobody but them and you will see the score. You might just say something like, "Hey, look, I get it. The internet pulls us into things we didn't expect, and this is a tool. It's just a way to check in with yourself." And normalizing the issue can help too. You could share, a lot of teens deal with this. It's not just you. And just a tip, don't force it. If they're hesitant, plant the seed, give them time. Just I'll give you an example. Had a client, and again, for the sake of confidentiality, I'll just refer to him as Sam. And in his situation, his mom had actually went to the YPASS site on the therapyassociates.net webpage, and she left it open for him, left a note that just says, "Whenever you're ready, this might help us to understand what's going on." And initially, he was resistant, kind of ignored it for several days, but later in the week, he did submit to the ASAM, and they were able to get a read and to get him moving into some treatment. So not sure that would always work, but in this case, it did, and sometimes it may be worth a shot. So another challenge that oftentimes can come up is just the resistance to follow through. So even if your teen does take the YPASS, they may balk at the results, especially if it suggests therapy or recovery program and they're not interested. This can feel overwhelming for them. So I think in that case, you validate their emotions and say something like, I can see this feels like a lot, and I am proud of you for taking this step. And then break the next step into bite-sized pieces. Maybe start by researching therapists together, or agreeing to try one session as a family, or purchase the recovery toolbox and motivate your teen to peruse the workbooks and take a look at them. Small steps can build momentum. And then the final challenge I would cover would be the lack of awareness or motivation. So some teens genuinely don't see their porn use as a problem. They might think, well, everyone's doing it, so what's the big deal? I'm not addicted. I could stop if I wanted to. So in these cases, gently help them connect the dots between their habits and their life. For instance, ask open-ended questions like, well, how do you feel after spending a lot of time online like that? Or have you noticed that it's harder to focus on school or sports? And then point out observable relationship or emotional challenges that are being displayed or that you observe, including, seems like that you are less patient and more agitated, which is how I usually know if you've relapsed. Or when I see that you prefer to stay home alone than to spend time with friends, then at that point I suspect that you've relapsed. And these questions and observations encourage reflection without sounding accusatory. You can also share how excessive porn use can impact their mental health, like increasing anxiety or making it harder to form real relationships. But but keep it conversational and not preachy. For example, I worked with a teen, I'll refer to him as Michael, who didn't think his late night porn binges were a big deal until his dad asked, "Well, have you noticed that you're more tired during your soccer practices?" And that question helped Michael to see the ripple effects without feeling judged. And the key is empathy. Approach your teen as a partner in solving a problem, not as someone who needs to be fixed. And if they're still resistant, don't lose hope. And we'll talk about what to do if they refuse to engage altogether. So once your teen takes the YPAST, the results are just the starting line. As a parent, your support is what turns that insight into action. And so let's walk through 4 steps to help your teen move from struggle to strength based on what the YPASS score is. So step 1 would just simply be to start an open conversation. So use the results score as a springboard for a calm, non-judgmental talk. Try saying something like, "Well, I'm really glad that you took this. Can we talk about what you learned about yourself?" And avoid phrases like, "Well, how could you be doing this?" or "This is a terrible problem," because those shut down communication. Instead, focus on their perspective. For example, parent that I had worked with recently should use their son's YPAS score to say, "Well, it sounds like that this has been tough for you. Do you want to share what's been going on?" And that opened the door to a more honest conversation about things. So step 2, explore the support options based on the score. So as we had gone through earlier, the YPAS score helps you to choose the right level of intervention. And so back to those categories. So 0 to 25 would be the healthy curiosity stage. And in that range of scores, things like reinforcing healthy relationship boundaries, setting up content filters like there's Covenant Eyes or Net Nanny, both are really good. And talk about safe online choices, encourage open and ongoing communication. And remember, it's about prevention. So the second stage of scores, 26 to 49, the growing concern stage. This is where you would consider a parent-led approach using Recovery Toolbox for Teens, the Breaking Free Workbook, 101 Tips for Quitting Porn Workbook, Breaking Free Parent Guide. And in these, you'll find practical exercises to help build healthier habits. And one that we've covered in a previous episode, the color code status board, which is a great tool for opening and continuing communication about where they're at in managing their proclivity for relapse. And then that third stage, scores of 50 to 69, which indicate that emerging challenges exist. This is where the recommendation would be to look into outpatient therapy with the specialist in teen pornography addiction issues. And our therapy associates in St. George, Utah, we have several clinicians who specialize in that. And we also offer a weekly recovery support group that can provide peer accountability along with working through the workbooks. And then that final upper stage, the 70 to 100, and this is the significant struggle stage that may call for intensive intervention like Star Guides, which we've also talked about in a previous episode, which is specifically designed to disrupt that addictive cycle through structured and immersive support. Then the next step, simply create a supportive environment. How you deal with this in your home is so important for recovery. So to be, as we've talked about, to set technology boundaries together, ideas like limiting device use in bedrooms, limiting internet access at times, setting curfews for technology use, using accountability apps, as we mentioned, like Covenant, and involve your teen in that process so that they feel empowered, not controlled. For example, one family I worked with agreed on a no phones after 9 p.m. rule, and their teen helped them to choose the app to enforce that and to choose the time. Encourage healthy alternatives to fill emotional gaps. If your teen uses porn to cope with stress or loneliness, help them rediscover passions like sports, art, or even volunteering. And here's the thing, don't forget to model balanced tech use yourself. If you, as a parent, are glued to your phone during family time, they'll notice. Create tech-free zones, especially during meals and during family times, and show them through your example what healthy balance looks like. And then finally, the final step would be to foster resilience. As you probably know, pornography use so often stems from emotional needs, stress, loneliness, low self-esteem. Check in regularly with your teen and not just about their habits, but about their life. Ask what's been the best part of their week or what's stressing them out. Celebrate their strengths to boost their confidence. Positive friendships are also key. Encourage them to connect with peers, develop relationships and friendships, peers who share their values, who will support them in this recovery journey. So, quick story on that. I worked with a teen, we'll call him Eddie, whose YPAST score showed significant struggle, and as part of a broader treatment approach that included outpatient therapy and participating in recovery group, completing the workbooks, using the color code status board. His parents also helped him to join a local theater group, which gave him a creative outlet and a new friend group. And over time, his reliance on porn as a coping mechanism faded, and in a large part because he felt a connection with this new hobby and felt valued there. So before we move on to parent question, let's talk about just a few limitations of the YPAS. So no tool is perfect, and of course, the YPAST is no exception. A few things to keep in mind. First, it requires your teen's cooperation, and if they refuse to take it, you can't force them. But here's the thing: their reluctance can be telling and diagnostic. It might signal denial or a strained parent-teen relationship, that they're just simply unwilling to allow you to have influence in their life, which in those kind of cases could point to the need for more intensive treatment and support. Second, the YPAST relies on honest answers. It's a self-assessment. If your teen downplays their habits or isn't self-aware, the score may not reflect the full picture. And interestingly, this lack of candor can also be diagnostic. It might suggest deeper issues, denial, or minimization that need professional attention as well. So at Therapy Associates and in the Star Guides program, in our work with teens in treatment, we use the YPAST as a baseline at the beginning of treatment and then again at the end to measure progress. And in nearly all cases, we see significant score reductions in the post-treatment assessment, which shows that the teen has developed improved coping skills and resilience. So if your teen's score is 26 or higher, then that's a good indicator to seek professional treatment of some level. And the thing is, early intervention can prevent long-term impacts on mental health, on relationships, overall well-being. So I always think that there is value in intervening early and being preventative. So let's tackle a question from a parent who had asked at one point here recently. I've been trying to get my teen to start treatment, but what if my teen refuses to complete the YPAST? Are there other ways to assess their addiction? And it's a great question. If your teen won't take the YPAST, their refusal itself can be a clue. It might reflect defensiveness, denial, a lack of trust, which are often tied to deeper struggles. Here's a few alternative ways to gauge what's going on that doesn't require that your teen take a formal assessment or complete the YPAST. So one would be observing behavioral patterns. So look for signs like increased secrecy. Maybe they put a lock on their phone, they're clearing their browser history, or behavioral changes like withdrawal from the family, increased irritability, seeking opportunities to stay home alone, that they've lost interest in previously enjoyed activities, or they have slipping grades. And these things can hint at emerging addictive behaviors. And next would be open communication. As you create a safe space to talk, ask gentle, open-ended questions like, I've noticed that you've been stressed lately. How's your time online going? And here's the thing, their openness and honesty can be a very positive sign if they are. However, on the flip side, this can uncover insights without confrontation. Their unwillingness or resistance to talk can be diagnostic of underlying problems. So the next would be to just monitor their digital activity, use parental control tools, get a sense of their online habits, and their willingness and cooperation with this can be a positive sign. And then on the flip side also is true. Their resistance or lack of compliance or manipulation or attempts to beat the system can be diagnostic of underlying problems. Next would be to check broader mental health. So pornography use often ties to anxiety or depression or dysregulated emotion or the lack of emotion or low self-esteem. And if you have any concerns related to mental health, that right there would be a good reason to seek professional intervention to screen for some of these other mental health issues as well. And sometimes it really does become a question of which came first. In a way, it's the chicken or egg debate. Where does the mental health struggles lead to the formation of addictive patterns with pornography? Or is it the pornography addiction and the fallout from that that's causing mental health issues? And sometimes it's a combination of both, with both of those being accurate and both needing attention and treatment intervention. And then evaluate the family dynamics. So a refusal to engage might point to trust or communication issues, and working on the relationship can encourage openness over time. And here's the thing, if resistance persists, and don't wait, reach out to a professional for guidance, and they can help navigate this roadblock and recommend tailored interventions. Parents, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction is a journey, but you don't have to walk alone. And remember the YPAST, it's a great first step to understand their habits and to start a meaningful conversation. So again, visit the website therapyassociates.net to access the YPAST under the Youth Services tab and then the Pornography Addiction page, and get the Recovery Toolbox for Teens. It's in the bookstore on the therapyassociates.net website. At the top, there's a page called the bookstore, and in the bookstore, there's recovery toolboxes, the blue recovery toolbox. There's a brown one as well, and that's for adults. I want you to get the blue one. It includes the Breaking Free workbook, the parent guide, and the 101 tips for quitting porn workbook. Now, learn about star guides as well. So particularly if you have concerns about safety and risk issues, if there's any sexual acting out that's happened or sexual abuse, or if there's pervasive mental health issues, suicidality, self-harm issues, or if your teen has engaged in consistent resistance to help and has rendered your influence as a parent without meaning, and you don't have any capacity to intervene, then a program like Star Guides may be the level of intervention that you need. Well, parents, you're taking a brave step by listening to this podcast and seeking answers, and celebrate that. Your love and commitment can help your teen move forward from struggle to strength. If this episode has resonated with you, please share it with other parents who might need it, and subscribe to this podcast for more tools and ongoing encouragement. Till next time, keep showing up for your teen with empathy and hope, and you've got this. This has been the Parent Guide, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction. We'll see you in the next episode.